Good morning. Today we are continuing with those percentages with CO30. I can convert percentages and decimals. So yesterday we were going back and forth between percent and fraction. Today we are doing percent and decimals. So remember that percent literally means out of 100. Remember that 100 is our magic number. So we're going to rewrite each percentage below as a fraction out of 100, and then we're going to turn that fraction into a decimal. The first one has been done for us. So we have 72% is 72 out of 100, 72 hundredths. So then, think of how I just read that, 72 hundredths. We need to write that as that decimal. Remember, we have, when we look at our place values, we have the ones place, we have our decimal, we have the tenths, and then we have the hundredths. So all of these decimals that we are doing, when we go from percent to decimal, decimal to percent, we want them to go out to that second decimal place. That is the hundredth place. So that 100 is still a powerful number for us. So let's look at our 3%. What is my fraction going to look like for 3%? Think about what we did yesterday. Layla? 3 over 100. So we call that 3 hundredths. And to write 3 hundredths with a decimal, that 3 needs to be in the hundredths place. So what do I put into that empty place? Because that 3 hundredths, 3 is in the hundredths place. What do I put in the empty place, Lilia? A zero. So 3% is 3 hundredths, which is 0.303. Okay. So now we have 90%. How do I write 90% as a fraction? 90 over 100. So we call that 90 hundredths. How do I write 90 hundredths as a decimal, Melanie? 0.90. Now some of us might say, do I need that zero there? Or could I just say 0.9? 90 hundredths and 9 tenths are the same value. It equals the same amount. So either way is acceptable. So if you see a 0.9 and we want to turn it into a fraction, turn it into a percent, we know we can just add that zero onto it, so it's out of that hundredth place. So so if we have 90 hundredths or 9 tenths, it's the same value. Now we have 114%. What does that fraction look like? Layla. 114 over 100. So that is 114 hundredths. Well, that's interesting. I know that there's only 2 decimal places, but I see 3 numbers. How do I do that if I only want 2 decimal places, but I have 3 numbers? What do you think I should do, Madison?
114 thousands.
I can't change it to thousands. It has to stay hundredths. Hundredths is our magic number. Melanie? That last number of our numerator has to be in that hundredth place. So we fill in the hundredth place, we fill in the tenths place, and oh my goodness, this one I get to fill in the ones place. So it would be 1 and 14 hundredths. 114 is 1 and 14 hundredths. So that last digit of our percent So in this case, it's a 4, has to be in the hundredths place. Our next one is 150%. What would that fraction look like, Sawyer? 150 over 100. So that is 100. Let me write it this way so I don't run out of room. 150 hundredths. How do I write that as a decimal? Marina? 1 and 5 tenths, or 1 and 50 hundredths. We can't say 50 tenths because there's 2 digits. Yeah. So you could say 1 and 50 hundredths, or you could say 1 and 5 tenths, because we know that that 0 doesn't have to be there. So either way is acceptable. 1 and 50 hundredths or 1 and 5 tenths, it's the same value. Any questions on that? All right, let's keep working a little. Do you see how you can go directly from a percentage to a decimal? Yeah. So if we have, looking at the first one, both 72% and 70 hundredths means 72 out of 100, which is the same as 0.72. A second example, 59% literally means 59 out of 100, or 59 hundredths, which is 0.59. A third example, 110% literally means 110 out of 100, or 110 hundredths, or 1.10. So do we have to go from a percentage to the fraction to the decimal? Not always, no. If it is easier for you to see it, you can, but you don't have to. So let's look at our converting that we're going to be doing. I'm going to erase the top so I can scroll up. So happy my board is working for me today. So much easier. So we are going to convert each percentage to decimal. If it works better for you to put it over 100 as a fraction and then put the numerator as the decimal, you can do that. If you look at it and say, I don't need that extra step, I can do that myself, you can do that. 33%. What would the decimal be? Madeline?
0.33.
0.33, because I know that last digit of my percent has to be in that hundredths place. Let's look below it. 180%. What would that look like as a decimal? Connor?
1.80.
1.80. As that 0 goes in the hundredths place, so then I fill in my tenths place and I fill in my ones place. If you put 1.8, that would be okay too. Both are correct. Look at the one next to it, 2%. What would 2% look like as a decimal? Zelda?
0.02.
0.02. Because remember, that last digit has to be in the hundredths place. And then if you have an empty tenths place, you fill it in with the 0. Any questions on how to do this section? All right, so now we're going to go backwards. We're going to go the other direction. To go the other way from a decimal to a percentage, think of the place value of the decimal. Or, move the decimal to the right 2 places instead of to the left. So if we think here, we had 33% with 0.33. Going backwards, we're going to take those 2, the tenths and the hundredths, and we're going to turn it into our percent. So if we have 0.22, what percent is that? Ava?
22%.
22%. Because we move that decimal place over two places, so it's 22%. 0.3, so it's at 3/10. Melanie, what would that be? 30%. Because remember, we always want that hundredth place filled in. Be careful. I get a lot of friends who say 0.3 is 3%. It's not, because that's 3/10, not 3/100. So we have to remember, we always have to have two decimal places to put it into that percentage. You look confused, Claire. Should we do one more? Okay, 71, 0.71, 71 hundredths. What would that be? What percentage? Lilia?
71%.
71%, because we want to move that decimal place over two places, then that becomes our percentage. So let's skip down here to 1.56. What percentage would that be? Think about what I said. Move that decimal place over two places. What would that be, Connor? 156%, because I'm moving that decimal place over two places. If you have a number in the ones place, it is going to be bigger than 100%. Look at the one right before it, 0.2. What percent is that? Connor? 20%, because we have to move that decimal place over two places and fill in the empty space with our zero. Any questions on how to do this section? Madison?
On 1.3, would that be 13%?
How many places do we have to move that?
130%.
Because if we have something in one place, we know it's going to be over 100%. All right, if you are watching at home, before that, if you finish your lesson before class is done, remember, we have Khan Academy due tomorrow night. We have math packet number 5 due on December 19th. If you turn it in early, if you turn it in by next week Friday, I will correct it and you can fix your mistakes. Shh. Remember, Friday is a retake day, so if you want to do practice work, turn it in ahead of time, put your name on it, turn it into the blue tray so I can correct it, and we can do our retakes on Friday. So if you're watching at home, I hope you are well. I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.